And coming up next, our special interview. Kun Chetana Ganta will be talking to Mr. Pran Siyam Wala, head of the Association of Natural Disaster Prevention Industry, about the Work from Home Act. Let's have a listen.
Special interview.
The Constitutional Drafting Committee received proposals from 4 organizations, which are the Institute of Science for a Sustainable Future, the Association of Natural Disaster Prevention Industry, the Employers Confederation of Thailand, and the National Congress of Thai Labor. These 4 organizations jointly filed a petition to the Constitution Drafting Committee and the National Reform Council to push for the Work from Home Act, which provides tax incentives as well as other incentives to both employers and their employees. Now, what are the details of this law and how would it benefit Thailand? To answer these questions, I am joined by Kun Pran Siyam Wala, who is the head of the Association of Natural Disaster Prevention Industry. Kun Pran, สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับคุณเจตนา
Thank you very much for joining us today. So the first question I have for you is, could you please summarize the proposals that you and the other 3 organizations have submitted to the Constitutional Drafting Committee?
Certainly. Firstly, when we submit the paper, the first paragraph, we actually citing His Majesty the King's speech broadcast on a national television in 1995.
I see.
Which was almost 20 years ago, in which he suggests that the most sustainable way to alleviate traffic congestion in the capital is by solving the problem at the root cause, which is by helping people avoid traveling.
I see, right.
The clear and concise remark 20 years ago is still very much valid today and show His Majesty's great insight and vision. I actually watched his speech, and with the government's digital economy, I believe the time is right to implement this concept. Now, we also have entails the benefits for the country, for the employees, and for the employers. For the country, certainly, it cut gas consumption, reduced the oil import, which is in trillions of baht a year spent. And of course, CO2. This is the most effective way to cut CO2, by the way. Most of the CO2 costs created besides the industry is on the road. And as we all know that the traffic is so horrendous, CO2 is released daily is so much, so huge.
Absolutely.
We can easily see it during the long holiday break last week. I stayed here in Bangkok, and the weather was so nice. The sky is clear, and you can see really the impact.
Right.
For employee, imagine saving 1 hour a day on the traffic. It translates to 1 month additional vacation. Not too many people realize that. And of course, most of us spend around 2 hours on traffic. That is an additional 2 months extra time that we can enjoy instead of just wasting time on the traffic, on the road. And of course, it's cut commuter expenses. And for the employers, clearly, they can turn around from rental expense to rental income. And there's a whole host of benefits from there. And employers can see much improvement on the productivities of the staff. Right. And there's a whole host of that. And of course, I'm the head of the Association of Natural Disaster Prevention Industry. I must emphasize our inclusion into this 4 entities that submit this petition is truly based on earthquake risk that we all face, both in the northern part of Thailand and here in Bangkok. Both areas highlighted as the red zone, which is high risk.
Right.
If we implement this concept, having people stay at home instead of working in high-rise buildings, it could save life, of course. While we're waiting for the existing buildings to be retrofitted, the quick and cost-effective solution is, of course, to work at home. So that's pretty much what we have submitted to the Constitutional Drafting Committee.
Right. I see. It's quite interesting looking at a speech that His Majesty the King delivered 20 years ago, because look, even in that time there was barely any internet, and now it seems like we can fulfill that vision more likely nowadays because of high-speed internet as well.
Yes, certainly, His Majesty has a very he's a futurist.
Absolutely.
So yes.
Right.
So he can see into the future.
Definitely true. The next question I have for you on this matter is, could you please talk in more detail about the incentives that the Work from Home Act provides to employers and employees?
Well, really, the incentives on the tax itself is just a gimmick. We actually based on the concept used by the U.S. government. And as the concept of work at home, or they call themselves telecommuting, actually implemented since the 1990s. U.S. government provide the tax rebate for the capital expenditures for both employers and employees to set up equipment, office outside the company's premises. But really, if people start to realize the benefits that I have mentioned earlier, there's really no need for any tax rebate or anything. For example, there are plenty of companies around the world are implementing that successfully. Right here in Thailand, none other than Bank of Thailand itself has already implemented this during the time of the former Bank of Thailand governor, Dr. Wattanakke.
Right.
Currently, the Bank of Thailand staff, 20% of them work at home. And they actually have measured the productivity, which actually has increased by around 20%. And obviously, the staff are very happy doing that.
Right. Right.
While the government has this concept of digital economy, this work at home should be one of the priority, should be a national agenda for the government to push. And of course, having digital economy certainly helps in terms of making the digital documentation become legalized. And besides the tax that we are requesting, of course, there must be a support for the SME. Work at home is good, of course, for the back office. And when we talk about back office, we always thought about the big companies. But actually, 90% of business are SMEs. And SMEs also have lots of back office staff. But for SME to be able to use the concept of work at home, they need to be assisted with on the IT side and on the HR side, which obviously is quite expensive. So these are the two matters that we also working with the IT team, the open source associations to come up with some sort of solution software that can assist SME, free of charge, of course. And the HR, when we talk about the work at home, the two departments are involved mainly are the IT and the human resource department. So those we need to help. We need support for those two functions.
Right, I see. Yeah, that's definitely true that this Work from Home Act, the benefits and incentives are quite obvious. The fact that you save all this commuting time and all the costs associated. It seems like the incentives pretty much carry themselves. So
yes,
it definitely seems useful indeed. Kun Pran, it's been quite an insightful interview with you. Thank you very much for sharing with us the details of the proposal that you've submitted to the Constitutional Drafting Committee and other organizations, and we hope that it is met with much approval, and hopefully we can see it benefiting Thailand soon. Kun Pran, thank you very much. สวัสดีครับ
Thank you. You're most welcome. สวัสดีครับ
ครับ สวัสดีครับ You were hearing from Mr. Pran Sayamwara, who is the head of the Association of Natural Disaster Prevention Industry. So next up, we move on to our featured presentation of Inside Parliament.
And now let's move on to our featured presentation of Inside